I'm a tropical conservationist. I do most of my research in the neotropics, so mostly Brazil. Work quite a lot in Madagascar, West Africa, East Africa as well. And here I was speaking about the importance of secondary forests to buffer the impacts of forest fragmentation in the neotropics. And then in the second part of my talk, I spoke about the persistence of forest biodiversity in humanized landscapes in Madagascar. My research is to understand how different forest features impact forest communities. And we do this both looking at the wider context of the forest, so how much forest there is in a landscape level, and this gives an idea of thresholds that are important for the persistence of different animal groups. And in parallel to that, in humanized landscapes, I try to understand what are the different features of the landscape that allow forest species to persist in other land use types, different agricultural land use types, in more urban environments. And the idea is to try to understand what are the features that drive the persistence of biodiversity in humanized landscapes, both in a forest context, across a forest gradient, but also outside the forest. So traditionally, as ecologists, we've been focusing on the animal, the plants, the fungi, and we've been doing ecology. The issue is that in a changing world that is increasingly dominated by humans, we need to work with humans, and for that we need social tools. So we need to delve into the social sciences and learn how can we contextualize the interaction between animals, plants and fungi and humans to try to minimize the stressors that are impacting the state of biodiversity. So this interaction between ecology and sociology is extremely important, especially if we want to do conservation. We use both a combination of classical ecological methods. So I work quite a lot with bats. With bats we use mist nets to capture the animals. With birds we use point counts, in which we listen and we see the animals and we count them in that way. But I also use multiple approaches that fall within what we call emergent technologies. So I use remote sensing. Within that I use bioacoustics for both bats and birds. I use camera traps for mammals. And to assess the structure of the forest, I use not only satellite imagery, but also LiDAR data. To look at trophic interactions, we use DNA metabarcoding, and we do this for reptiles, for bats, for mammals, terrestrial mammals. So I do use a combination of different approaches. So for me, my participation in the autumn schools brings multiple things, but one of the core things, it comes down to intergenerational knowledge exchange. I'm an established scientist, let's say, nowadays, but there has been people in the fields that have been working for much longer than I have, and I have much to learn from their experience. And in the same way, I have been working for longer than some of the participants, so I can speak with them and I can pass on some of the things that I've learned. And of course, their experience is also different from mine. There's a bi-directional exchange of knowledge that is really, really important. I'm benefiting from that in multiple ways, and that's by far the biggest thing that I take away from this event.